We'll begin with some formal introductions, beginning with our acting Dean of Arts, Tracy Whalen, who will come up now.
Good morning, and warm welcome to this wonderful conference hosted by the Center for Transnational Mennonite Studies. As you know, it's called Subject Settler Citizens, the 1870s Mennonites in Historical Context. And I'm delighted to welcome you here this morning on behalf of the Office of the Dean of Arts. This is not the first time that I've had the pleasure to attend a conference, the Ruslander Conference, for example, and I'm always impressed by the number of people from both within the academy and in the community, and people who are interested in thoughtful discussion, lively discussion, community around issues of history, oral history, and Mennonite history and all of its complexities. So I would like to begin this morning with an acknowledgement of the lands upon which we gather. We are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji Cree, the Dakota and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The University of Winnipeg sits in Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral and traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe peoples. And our water, which is sacred and vital to life, and often not evenly distributed, is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. In the spirit of such acknowledgement, I see amongst its many topics, this conference turns its attention to Mennonites, First Nations people, and settler colonialism. One presentation providing a critique of long-held settler narratives of land and water. Another exploring the application of Indigenous concepts in Mennonite studies. And of course, the oral history of Mennonite-Indigenous encounter in the 1870s will be taken up tomorrow's keynote address by Elder Dave Scott. So before I sign off and open this podium for the day, I'd just like to say how much I've been struck looking through the topics before us in the next couple of days and looking at what's surrounding us right now on the screens by the many themes having to do with making. You know, for example, treaty making and the way that different people understand that. By remaking, the remaking of communities and villages, by connecting, by creating, by producing. These are all kinds of inventive arts that are necessary to and attendant upon migration. The creation and the recreation of communities, identities, and oral histories. And true to that spirit of artistic practice, I noticed the conference includes, for example, a documentary. You know, the screening of Where the Cottonwoods Grow. Also featured is a comic book, The Secret Treaty, A Lost Story of Ojibwe and Mennonite Neighbors, which is, a lot of you know, Jonathan Dick illustrated and wrote in collaboration with Elder Scott. I love the conference poster. I was looking at it, you know, to see, I think about, you know, Batman and, you know, Wham! And we have a Mennonite individual with a mosquito going SWAT. You know, it's kind of like Marvel meets Mennonite in this interesting reconfiguration. I love it. So to walk in and see this today is really quite grand. And of course, you know, in this inventive practice, this is where we see the negotiation of tensions and the constitutive rhetorics of belonging, or understanding what it might have meant to have been a Mennonite in the 1870s amongst other people. So I would like to conclude this morning by acknowledging, too, that a conference itself is an act of considerable creation and organization and invention. And I would like to acknowledge all of those who contributed to organizing and putting off what is really quite a wonderful achievement, with particular thanks to Dr. Ben Nobbs-Thiessen and Dr. Aileen Friesen, and to thank you all for attending. I wish you a very generative and meaningful two-day conference.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aileen Friesen, and I am a co-director of CTMS and also the executive director of the Plett Foundation, which is one of the major funders of this conference. As many of you know, this lands right directly square into Plet Foundation mandate, which starts with the migration to Manitoba, specifically of the 1870s Mennonites, and then has expanded from there. And so I am very happy to be here and to say a couple of words, just a few words, because you're going to hear me in just a little bit on one of the panels. And so Ben asked me this morning to say a few words about the 1870s migration, and just to remind us why we're here, commemorating this sesquicentennial of the Mennonite migration from the Ukrainian lands of Imperial Russia to Manitoba. And of course, it starts in essence in the summer of 1874 with the arrival of Mennonites here in Manitoba, an arrival made possible by the signing of Treaty 1, an arrival also made possible by the 1873 Privilegium that was signed with the Canadian government, and an arrival that was spurred on by tensions in Imperial Russia between Mennonites and the Imperial Russian government over issues of reform, of what kind of state the Imperial government was trying to create and where Mennonites might fit into that. And I think it's important to remember, of course, there's issues of land ownership, there's all sorts of economic factors at play, but I just want to remind us all that in essence, the 1870s Mennonite migration is really about issues of defining faithfulness, of defining what it means to be faithful to Anabaptist principles, and differences of opinion on how one should live a faithful life. And this setting of religiosity sometimes gets lost as we, in our secular world, try to think of other factors that might have shaped and influenced people's decision making. But I just want to remind us today that the mental landscape of many of these early settlers was based in this religious understanding of their own lives and of their own communities, and that shaped the initial settlement and has shaped the community and its development to this day in a variety of ways, even through the questioning of those religious values. So I'm looking forward to a wonderful conference in which we raise all sorts of issues and have all sorts of debates, and I thank you all for being here.